The Maple Leafs split the weekend series and have added another player into the mix. Who that may be, well, you'll find out on today's edition of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother from TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, my co-host, it's Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centered podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. You can now catch us on YouTube as well. That's Locked On Leafs on YouTube. We're trying to get to 500 subs. We're more than halfway there, but once we get to 500, we're doing a giveaway. We're doing a Maple Leafs giveaway, so make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube and make sure that you are eligible to get involved in that one. All right, man, big weekend that we just had, and we knew it was going to be. We talked about it on Friday. Big game against the Montreal Canadiens, a team who's kind of had Toronto's number so far this season and had their number again on Saturday, and then a solid performance against the Florida Panthers on Sunday to kind of back that up. So why don't we go through these games? Why don't we start a little bit, I guess, with Montreal, because afterward, I mean, yeah, you drop 2 points to Montreal. You hate it. You really hate to see it. It sucks. But like, Dave, can we not throw out the term goal lead in a game like that? I mean, they threw 51 shots on net, man, and only scored twice.
I had a few people argue with me that the Leafs didn't show up in that game. And I'm just like, so you mean the 51 shots they had on goal, the high danger scoring chances for? I put this out there. They had 19 high danger scoring chances for. Montreal had 5. And then the person's just like, oh, so that means those other 51, like, oh, those 51 shots didn't really mean anything. It's like, no, they did. They did.
Yeah, you want to look at their 5-on-5 numbers, and they even scored on the power play as well. But you look at their 5-on-5 numbers, their expected goal for percentage was 75%. So, I mean, like, this team was supposed to win the game, like, basically 3-1, or every 3 goals that the Leafs got, Montreal was only supposed to score 1 goal. I mean, it's just silly. It's absolutely silly to sit there and say that the Leafs didn't show up. I mean, they had 51 shots, more than 20 high danger scoring chances in all situations.
Yeah, and look, I said, and I kind of said it after the game too, that one save that Jake Allen made on Mitch Marner changed the complexion of that game, because it was a tie game. Leafs battle back, even it up, and that goal would have put the Leafs ahead. And who knows if Montreal, Montreal, I'll give them credit. They had a really bad first period. They looked better in the second period, but in that third period, like, it was just that one Matthews play that everything kind of just fell apart there. And
Yeah, let's talk about that play, because I got a text. Apparently, I wasn't listening to the broadcast, but I guess Joe Bowen felt that should have been a penalty on that play. Where did you stand on that? Did you think there should have been an interference call there on Paul Byron when it seemed like I'll tell you my thoughts first, actually, before I get to you.
Go ahead.
Like, there may have been contact, like skate-on-skate contact. Clearly, there was some sort of contact. But to me, it was like so subtle and so incidental that I don't fault the rest for making a call there. Like, it's almost a 50-50. Not even. I probably would not have made a call there. It's just it's unfortunate what happened. But I wasn't so upset with that one. There was a few calls within the game that probably should have. I'm not saying the refs had a good night, but that's not one where I'm going to sit there, hoot and holler, and be just so pissed off that one didn't go. That wasn't like the game against Arizona where Chikrin's, that was a blatant missed call. Yeah. It certainly was not the case, but I heard people online, and apparently Joe Bowen was also one of these guys who really felt that should have been a call, that goal never should have been allowed, and the Maple Leafs should have been, in fact, been on the power play with a tie game instead of be down 4-2, 3-2.
Yeah, I felt like if it was earlier in the game, you might have seen something. I think at that point of the game, that's a hard one to make a call on because Matthews wasn't exactly in the best position. Like he was kind of fumbling a bit because he was being pressured back with the puck and he was kind of turning. I didn't. I just think it was a bit of a careless play by Byron too, because he got his skate caught on him, and we saw a similar play in the Florida game with Justin Hall getting a penalty on it. So I guess where Leafs fans are mad is just the lack of consistency. But with that play, what really annoyed me about that play was you had three Habs there at the blue line. Matthews was the only one back there in the Bushkin because Morgan Rally decides he's going to pinch in, and
Yeah,
that led to the 3-on-1. Well, then it
right.
became a 3-on-2. Like that was the if Leaf fans are going to be mad about something, be mad about how that play blew up in their face. So yeah, Matthews is out of the play, so you're most likely going to be an odd man out on that situation, but it would not have been a 3-on-1 in that case. So it was just I didn't like the way that the Leafs handled the late game scenario there. They did. I understand they're trying to press and score, but you also have to realize the situation and
Right, be
where
responsible.
exactly, and they were not responsible in that part. And that's I think where fans were really annoyed with because if you play responsibly there, there's a better chance that you at least get a point out of it rather than you're sitting there going, really, again,
Yeah,
another loss to a team that's well below in the standings, almost what, 30
they're last
points
place.
behind?
They're the last place team in the
Yeah.
league. Yeah, they are like that. That's what the Montreal Canadiens are nowadays. They're literally dead last. Despite playing a lot better hockey of late, they still are that bad of a team. At least in the standings, they're not that bad of a team on ice. And I think we clearly know that. But yeah, there was a couple of different issues, I guess you could say, on that one. Even Shalgren post game was like, "Yeah, it's one that I got to have. Like, I can't give him that 5 hole to Paul Byron, and he's not the biggest scoring threat. So, probably thought that maybe he's going to try and go cross ice and he was cheating a little bit. And then he ended up, because he was looking past the whole time, right? Like Byron set that up pretty nicely. It looked like he was looking past, and then boom, fires it between the wickets there, and they go up and take a 3-2 lead. But, at the end of the day, those games going to happen. It's unfortunate, but you talk about playing responsibly. I guess should probably talk about William Nylander in that game because the first goal, David Savard, like that was Nylander's guy, and there was not that it was a poor back check, but in his own words, there was no back check on that play. Ends up having to park it on the bench for a couple of shifts, and ends up losing his spot in the top six. Had to play in the bottom pair on the third line at least in the third period, and then again tonight same way, stuck there in tonight's game as well. So lost his spot in the top six because of that. That I don't want to call it inability. His lack of consistency to a two-way game, which is what Sheldon Keefe preaches so much. But I thought that Sheldon Keefe's comments. Did you hear the comments post game on William Nylander? So for those who didn't hear them, essentially, here let me pull them up really quickly. Give me your thoughts on that play while I pull it up here.
Well, I know what, like, I understand that, in that situation, you're not expecting David Savard to pinch and try to go to the net on that play. It's not really David Savard's game, but it's the lack of awareness in that situation to know that there's a play there, right? He's looking for the backdoor tap in, and you got to wake up in that moment and be like, all right, you don't have to body the guy, but be in a position where you make it tough on him to get that play off. Like even if Nylander's in the vicinity or able to try to even intercept the pass, that's a nothing play, and you're not finding yourself in the doghouse, and you're gonna pull up Sheldon Keefe's comments. I just felt like he was very calculated with what he said
Well,
for a
yes.
few reasons.
Yeah, he was. So what he said was, someone asked him, was the reasoning for sitting Willie putting him down in the third line because of the poor back check on the Svar goal. And what he said was, to me, that was like the third or fourth play for Will, and I thought it was time. Obviously, things have been piling up for that line for a while. It was overdue. And he continued. Somebody said, have you been satisfied with Nylander's play over the last month? His answer was no, not close. And then he was asked to follow up again if there was anything specifically he wanted to see improve from William Nylander. And then he said, I'm not going to answer the question. I don't need to pile on Will. He knows what makes him great, and he knows what he needs to do to get back to it. And you'll recall earlier in the year, I mean, uh, Sheldon Keefe said that Nylander's a guy who needs to be pushed a little bit. So you get kicked off the second line onto the third line for, however long this may be. Maybe it's a couple of games. Hopefully that's the push that he needs to get him back into the swing of things for the final stretch and into the playoffs, because this team, they can't just rely on that top line scoring each and every night, bucket loads of goals. They got to get that secondary scoring from guys like Nylander, guys like Tavares. You got a defenseman who scored tonight, Morgan Riley. They got to get some goals. Mikheyev is starting to pile some up. Engvall's had a goal the other night, the game winner in New Jersey. So they can't just rely on the top line, but Nylander's got to be part of basically the main part of the secondary scoring for this team. And hopefully, this is the kind of kick in the pants that he'll get. I guess shifting to the Florida game, how did you feel that he responded to getting demoted to the third line tonight?
I think if you're, spotlighting William Nylander, this wasn't exactly like the game where you're just like, you know what, he looked better. I didn't really notice much from him. Like, honestly, Ilya Mikheyev showed that he was deserving to get that promotion to his spot.
Yeah.
And I think the annoying part with William Nylander right now, for those who have defended him for all of his time here in Toronto, the problem here is we saw with the potential he has in the playoffs last year. He is very much capable of playing the style that's needed to win because he's done it. The issue now is, why aren't we seeing it now? And I think that's Sheldon Keefe's frustration. I think that's frustration everybody has with William Nylander right now. So this is where Sheldon Keefe is doing this very delicately. He could have sat William Nylander. Like, he could have not played him at all to really send a message. I don't like.
Could you imagine? I mean, hey, we saw Calgary the other day. Say Sean Monahan set up the press for a game. I mean, maybe that's what it might take to get Willie really going.
Yeah, that's the issue right there, right? Is I think Sheldon Keefe, he knows this player. He's coached him since he was in the AHL with the Marlies. So I think he knows the right buttons to press with William Nylander. And it might be frustrating for those of us that are watching this and are maybe calling for Sheldon Keefe to bench him, or calling for Sheldon Keefe to really send him a message. I think really, if you think about it, the best way, in my opinion, to try to get William Nylander to have a bit of a wake up call, take him off the first power play unit. Say, you know what, you gotta earn your way back. Now the tough part is, as you say, is getting goals is getting a little tough. So are you gonna, punish the rest of the team? But you know what, it's the type of wake up call I think this group needs to be like, you know what, if we think that this is gonna fly the way that things have gone lately, why don't we just pack our bags for that first round trip? We'll have everything ready to go once that first round is done, and you guys can have your summer vacation. Like, I just think the frustrating part is you watch the Florida game and you watch the Montreal game, and it's like it's the constant roller coaster that we've seen this season.
Yeah,
That's the frustrating part.
yeah, absolutely. Playing up to your opponent, and I don't want to say they didn't play down to their opponent against Montreal. They kind of got goalied. I mean, like you said, the 49 save performance out of Jake Allen. You got to just tip your hat to that guy But when it comes to the game against Florida, like that was a pretty even game, and there were
Yeah.
swings both ways, but it's a very low event game. Why don't we take a quick break here? We'll get to our show sponsor, and then when we come back, let's break down the game against Florida, the win against Florida. We can give our 3 stars of the game, and then also a little bit later on, Nick Abruzzese is officially a Maple Leaf. He signed his contract. Will be joining the team on Tuesday. We'll tell you about him and some of the other guys who might find their way to Toronto pretty soon. Some of the other prospects that are going to be out there in the college ranks at the very least. But before we do, just a reminder that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And Dave, why don't you tell our good folks about our friends at Built Bar?
Yes, we're getting into the spring is coming. Those of us in Toronto, I know it's hard to believe that with the snow that we had, but spring is coming. So we're gonna get a little more active. Also means that our body's gonna need that protein to really fuel ourselves in our activities. So why don't you try and grab a Built Bar? Have you tried their puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of the best Built Bars out there. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. Yes, they're fluffy, they're marshmallow, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. You can replace your candy bars with these, as most candy bars have anywhere between 200 to 300 calories. Built bars are about 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. So if you're looking for something that's delicious but also has the low calories, why not switch over to a Built Bar? They have many delicious flavors as well, like mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. So at Built Bar, they're always about trying to make it delicious first, but also healthy, and they do a pretty bang up job at it. So make sure you go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. So that's locked15 over at built.com, and that will save you 15% off.
Welcome back to the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano. I've got Dave Morassutti, my co-host, with me. We are your hosts of Locked On Leafs, the best daily Maple Leafs podcast out there. You can find us wherever you get your podcast through audio. You can also find us on video on YouTube. Just search up Locked On Leafs. So yeah, a disappointing loss to Montreal. You never want to lose 2 points. You're supposed to win the games you're supposed to, which is against the league's worst teams. Unfortunately, they didn't end up getting any points out of it, but they did get 2 points against one of the best teams in the league with a 5-2 win over the Florida Panthers. This is a pretty good game. I mean, it was rather low event, but honestly, Dave, like I've been saying this for quite some time, the Maple Leafs tend to play their best hockey in low event games when they just, they're not worried about running gun offense all the time. They're mostly, focused on just shutting down the opponent. And they did a good job of that. And eventually they either let their special teams take over, which is exactly what happened tonight, or you allow your special players to make 1 or 2 plays a game and you walk away with a tight, narrow victory. Now, due to the special teams, they ended up with a bit of a bigger victory, including the late empty net goal that Matthews got, league leading 48th goal, that is, new career high. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good showing for the Maple Leafs tonight in their first game this season against the Florida Panthers.
Funny thing here is, thanks to Natural Static for pointing this out to me, Austin Matthews was on the ice for all 5 goals the Leafs scored tonight. Did not even know that. That's pretty impressive. That's not even a plus minus thing. It's just he was clearly in.
Was Marner not?
No, actually, Marner was on for Morgan Riley was on for 4. Mitch Marner was. Oh, sorry, Mitch Marner was also on for all 5
Yeah, I
goals.
was gonna say he assisted on like 3 of them.
Yeah. So yeah, because Mitch Marner was way down in the column there. But like this is I think the type of win that as you said is kind of like should be the identity of this team.
Yeah.
Your big boys get the job done, obviously with Austin Matthews, Morgan Riley, John Tavares all figuring into the goals scoring there. Even Mitch Marner, he had a great performance as well. And yeah, in Florida, like for a team that's one of the best offensive teams in the league, the Leafs kept them at bay for a good part of the game. Like they weren't completely shut down because Florida had their chances, they had their goals, but I felt like the Leafs at no point in that game were the Leafs panicking, even when Florida went up 2-1. And I think that's the sign of the type of Leafs team that we're looking to see on a more consistent basis. And it's only usually coming against these top teams.
I can think of maybe one or two sequences where the Maple Leafs were like somewhat hemmed into their own zone. The fourth line tonight struggled, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
thought that they couldn't get out of their own zone. Spezza, Blackwell, and Wayne Simmons, just a bit of a tough night for them. It seemed like they were playing with the puck in their own ice on their own ice the entire night. And you look, they were out in terms of shot attempts. At 5-on-5, they didn't get a single shot attempt.
I
Sitting there
was
with
about to
their
say
goalie.
I have never ever seen a line have a 0 Corsi rating because they got none. They were on the ice for like when they're on the ice, nothing. That was just like all right, we need to get these other guys some rest. Can you guys just make sure you don't get scored on? Which unfortunately they did. But
What?
it was that fourth line was a disaster, a hot mess in that game. But fortunately, it was not the reason why they lost or they won, so they didn't lose because of it.
Yeah, it didn't cost them the game, which obviously is a really good thing. But I want to also just give some love here to Petr Mrazek, who I thought another good performance. Like, stopped 33 of 35 pucks directed his way, and there wasn't too many like high danger chances. Only two high dangers at 5-on-5, six overall. And that's even with like three power plays that they had. So the team themselves did a really good job defensively to like keep everything to the perimeter. Didn't allow Florida to get to the middle of the net, get to the middle of the ice. There wasn't many opportunities in the slot, not a lot around the net either. So Toronto did a really good job defensively. I was looking, natural stat trick. The average shot distance from Florida tonight was from 67 feet from the net. 67 feet from the goal line was the average shot distance. That's really how you talk about protecting the net, and that's how you're going to get good goaltending. If shots are coming in from 67 feet and you're boxing guys out, you're not allowing a lot of traffic in front. There was some times where Mrazek had to look and battle around screens to try and find, and he did a better job of tracking tonight. I did notice too. But for the most part, when these pucks are coming from 60, 70 feet out, he's going to stop them, right? So they gave him an opportunity to have a pretty solid night. I was pleased with Mrazek's performance, and now that's two starts in a row where he's allowed two goals. So it's nice to see him kind of rebounding after just a terrible couple of months there, goes down on waivers, doesn't get claimed, and then bounces back with two performances where he's allowed just two goals. So, a little bit of a tip of the cap to the old Petr Mrazek.
A tip is such a typical thing. Like if you're looking, Petr Mrazek was kind of everyone was pretty much saying he had 1 foot out the door with his team,
Yeah.
and
He
now
still might. He still might. Like, let's
yeah.
not
Well,
get wrong here. He still might. I'll say this though. Like, tonight, there was two key stops there with the net empty that where it was like, okay, in the past, I feel like those would have went in.
mhm.
Where now he's a little bit more. I don't know if has
He's
more
more calm in
confidence.
the net.
Do you see him flash the leather there early in the third period? By the way,
Oh yeah,
that was a sign where I'm like, okay, he's feeling better about himself. That is more of a confident Petr Mrazek. He knows he's been tracking the puck well, and when he made that glove stop and flashed the leather a little bit, little showboat, it's like, okay, I could dig it because he hasn't given us that. And that shows that maybe he's playing with a bit of confidence. And then late in the period, when they needed him to make a couple of big saves with the net empty, one on Reinhart and another one on Sam Bennett, both those guys with chance in the slot, he came up big and he made those stops.
yeah. Like that's all you're expecting. This is what the Leafs need from the goaltending because you know what they haven't been allowing the volume of shots. It's more so there's going to be some tough ones you're going to have to make, but if you can make just those few, Leafs have the offensive punch to win the game, and they showed that tonight. And you know what? It was Spencer Knight on the other end for Florida, who hasn't looked the same from his like his first season with the club. But this is a game I think the Leafs should be feeling a little more confident, especially with a very tough matchup coming up on Tuesday night. I know we'll get into that later in the week or on tomorrow's podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna do that tomorrow.
But like this is a game I think Petr Mrazek should hang his hat on, because this was arguably the toughest matchup he's faced this season, and I think arguably one of his better. I there was a lot of praise for his New Jersey game. I think this one was better, just based on the team and the competition. I know the Panthers were coming off the second out of the back to back, but so were the Leafs. So really, it was an even ground for both teams in this regard.
Yep, absolutely. Wasn't a perfect night though. I'll say that. Just to give the yin and the yang there together. Too many turnovers for the Maple Leafs, especially in their own end. They had 19 giveaways tonight, and both of the goals that were scored by Florida came off of turnovers. One directly off the stick of William Nylander. Not sure what he was doing on that play, and then the other one I want to say was off of who ended up scoring that one. Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, the second one was the Nylander goal. The first one was the Leafs. Yeah, they lost the board battle in behind the net, and then Huberdeau to Bennett up to Montour. Yeah, so that's how that happened. So twice in their own end, they're turning the puck over, giving it away, and both those times too, they had chances to clear it and weren't able to do it. So you got to clear those pucks out when you get that opportunity, because a team like Florida, if you give them a second and third chance to keep possession and keep play alive in the offensive zone, that's a team who scores more goals than any other in the NHL. You give them those extra ozone possession time, they're going to make you pay, and they did a couple of times. So when you're looking for things to clean up, I guess, the turnovers in their own end, that's certainly one that I think that they'll want to clean up for Tuesday's meeting against Boston, who's also playing some pretty good hockey right now. Specialty. Well, you know what? Let's do our 3 stars. Actually, we'll do our 3 stars, then we'll break and we'll get to. Actually, why don't we break first, and then we'll do a 3 stars, and I'll also just quickly chat about the Nick Abruzzese signing and what I think this means for the Maple Leafs and potentially some other college players that could end up with the team over the next little bit here for the final stretch run. So we'll take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to our 3 stars and the college kids, and we'll do that next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Welcome back to the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano here. I've got my co-host Dave Morassutti. We are the host of Locked On Leafs, the daily Maple Leafs centric podcast. Let's get to our 3 stars from the game against the Florida Panthers. Dave, why don't you go ahead and start us off with your 3rd star of the night?
I'm gonna have to give it to Ilya Mikheyev. You know what? I've been very impressed with his play lately. Of course, it's funny because I saw on Twitter someone's like, "It's gonna really suck when the Leafs can't afford Ilya Mikheyev." And I'm just like, let's not talk about that right now. Let's just not worry about that right now.
I got the same text from my uncle. My uncle's that old school Leaf fan who thinks his team is too soft. Like when Tavares got dumped in the first period there, McCabe came and gave him a little cross check. To who was it? I'm trying to remember who it was even that hit him.
Was it Robert Haig?
It might have been. I can't remember who
first one along the boards there.
Yeah, along the boards. Yeah.
So it would have been Robert Haig, I believe that.
Right. Okay. So then Tavares gave a little. I thought JT wanted to drop the mitts there. Did not seem like for a second.
I think he was first a little dazed about what was going on. As they were
skating off, it seemed like there may have been a conversation.
He was fiery tonight.
Yeah. Anyways, my uncle texts me and he's like, your captain gets sent into the boards head first and no one comes to his defense. I'm like, hey, Ilya came and gave a little cross check and then went on. He's like, what the hell's that message going to send? I'm like, I don't know. That's what it reminded me of. Like Mikheyev scored a goal, but also laid a tiny little cross check after the Tavares hit as well. But I don't know if you saw, did you see my tweet out there that I sent? That was a pretty good tweet. You know, actually you're going to bring it up.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up.
All right. So for those on YouTube, I guess you'll be able to see it. For those listening, I'll just tell you what it was?
Now I remember which tweet it was. All right, I got it.
So for those who, if you're a listener of Locked On Leafs, good chance you are a Adam Sandler, not Adam Sandler, but I guess a yeah,
I'm
there it is.
I love Happy Gilmore. One of my, it's actually my favorite Adam Sandler movie.
I would agree with Big Daddy's a big one of my Big Daddy, Happy Gilmore, and then probably Billy Madison. But
Happy
anyway,
Gilmore for me, just growing up, I could watch that anytime, and I'm also a big golf person.
I
So
used to watch it literally almost every single night. I'll be honest with you. So if you guys remember, for who's listening, the scene where Happy Gilmore finally learns how to putt, and he
he
has
makes
like
a putt.
hockey stick putter, and he
Love
puts
that. I
it.
want one.
Yeah, oh, that'd be awesome. And he looks at Shooter McGavin and goes, "Uh-oh, Happy learned how to putt." So I tweeted out that little gif and said, "Uh-oh, Mikheyev learned how to deke." Because this is now 2 games in a row, or 2 of the last 3 games, I guess. Scored the
Yeah,
same goal, forehand, backhand on the breakaway in New Jersey, and then he did it again here tonight against the Florida Panthers. And, that's it's nice to see Mikheyev because this dude ends up with a breakaway game. If he can add that little bit of scoring element to it and just pick up, an extra couple of goals throughout the next, end of the season because of that, hell, yeah, we need that. I
he's
thought
proven
that
not to be Michael Grabner right now. That's all I'm gonna. Leafs fans who know this reference, Michael Grabner would have like a million breakaways a game. Problem is, Michael Grabner didn't really know what to do on the breakaway most of the time, and
I don't know
so
how that guy scored 40 goals one year or like 36 goals, whatever it was with the Islanders. That made no sense to me, considering what he did when he got to Toronto.
so
Absolutely nothing.
Eli Mikheyev is learning deep backhand works. So
Do you
let's.
know who the Maple Leafs traded for Michael Grabner?
Do we have to really? I know exactly where you're going with this. The Florida Panthers are I'm calling them the castaway team because every guy that every team doesn't want ends up in Florida and succeeding. Yes, I know Carter Verhaeghe was a part of that trade.
Yeah.
So was Matt Finn,
Yes, correct.
for, former second round pick, I believe, out of the Guelph Storm.
I believe
That
so.
worked out well for the Leafs too.
Yeah.
Any other terrible nightmares you want to dig up? Any old skeletons out of the closet?
No,
JT Marchand?
Let's continue with the 3
Okay.
stars of the game. That guy ended up going off the rails for
Okay.
absolutely no reason. My 3rd star was the special teams, man. Like, let's give some
Oh
love
yeah.
to the special teams. Like, 3 for 3 on the penalty kill, and that one penalty kill that they had was outstanding. I thought Marner was going to score as well
Oh yeah.
on that PK, get another shorthanded one, and then 2 for 2 on the power play. John Tavare scores both of his goals on the power play on the man advantage, and they looked really good, which is nice to see because the PP hasn't been as dominant as it was, in the midway point of the season. Looks like it's starting to heat up a little bit again here. It scored last night, or scored the other night against Montreal, and then scored twice against Florida. So got to give some love to the special teams units there as my 3rd star. Your 2nd star, Dave.
I gotta go with the goalie, Petr Mrazek. 34 saves in this game. Like Florida really, I know they really pushed it late because I mean I think they took the extra skater with like 3 or 4 minutes left in the third period. So like they were pushing hard, but Mrazek looked a lot more calm in the net, especially with Florida trying to get a lot of traffic in front. So I thought this was I think his best game with Leafs. I would have liked if he played that first goal a little bit better,
Mhm.
but you can't nitpick too much in a victory. He made the saves he needed to make, especially in the third period. So definitely deserving of the second star
Yeah, and got the standing O from the
at the end
crowd.
of the game. Yeah.
Not the Bronx cheer, but a legitimate, sincere standing ovation. And I agree with you. I knew you were going to put him on your 3 stars, so I didn't put him on mine. But what Marner said on Mrazek post game is that being the goaltender, he said it's great, but being the goaltender is probably the hardest job to be in this town.
Yeah.
And he said, or North America, and I don't know about that. But it definitely in Toronto, being the goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs, yeah, I don't. There might not be much more pressure than whoever's got that job. That's for sure. North America might be a little bit more. There's this President of the United States, Prime Minister of Canada. Those guys have some pretty stressful jobs. I don't know if I would consider being the goaltender to be as stressful as being a leader of a country, but you know,
It's up there. It's up there.
up there. It's up there. Maybe top five. Number one's a bit of a stretch. Yeah, I gave mine to John Tavares. We talked about him a little bit, but thought that JT had a pretty solid game. Scored both of his goals on the power play in and around the net, and was getting a little feisty out there. It seemed like that hit kind of, not that it woke him up, but it really seemed to get him going. I thought that he had a good game, both defensively in his own zone and offensively. Had a couple of opportunities there. So I gave JT the second star. Are we giving who are you giving the first star of the
I
game?
was gonna give mine to John Tavares
Yeah.
because I just thought he was the difference maker in this game. Like he had a really rough night. There was obviously the hit in the first. There was this like he for some reason was Radical Gudis' dance partner for a good part of that game, and then I thought I think he got a high stick at one point in the game that was missed, and I just think this is a game where John Tavares just he kind of channeled that frustration into goals. And to me, that's the perfect thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What did you think of the interference call that he ended up getting? Like him and Gudis both got 2 minutes. I didn't think Tavares did too much. It was more
No,
so
like
Gudis ragdolling JT, and they sent them both off. I mean, whatever it is, what it is, I guess. But it seemed like a soft call to put Tavares in the box as well on that.
it's just like also he didn't initiate anything. Like
No,
he's
and
the victim.
all he did was he was trying to go to the net. And he was being like hooked and prodded and hells, and he's like, "Get off of me, bro!" Like that's all. And by doing that, they're like, "Oh no, you can't do that. You're holding him." It's like, what the hell is he supposed to do?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know
go to
what
the net.
like this is where I think he's trying to talk to the rest and be like, guy, what would you like me to do? Tell me so then I don't get a penalty next time. And I don't even think the refs would have like he had a few conversations with the refs. Morgan Riley had a long one after that first period.
Well, the Justin Hall penalty was
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like, come on, like that had no nothing to do with the play. That was just
He
so
called
incidental.
they bumped into each other.
Right.
It's gonna happen.
Right, like, if you're gonna call an interference call there, like, you might as well call a dive too. You know what I mean? But anyways, I gave my first star to Mitch Marner. I thought Mitch Marner was buzzing all night, had 3 assists, was on the ice for all 5 goals as well, but an extremely active stick. Like, this guy always seems to he's got, like, a puck on a string, it seems like. So, and Marner just a couple of beautiful plays. Fastest Maple Leaf in history to get to 300 apples, and he did this in 86 less games than the next best, which is Bjorn Salmon. So pretty good company to be in there. Mitch Marner setting records for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the historic franchise. And I mean, the guy just makes plays, dude. Like he's just so good, so good. 5-on-5, power play, penalty kill, 4-on-4, does it all, man. Does it all. So I gave my first star for tonight. All right. Moving on from the games, let's head out to the NCAA and the Frozen Four. Nick Abruzzese signing with the Maple Leafs after Harvard got eliminated from Frozen Four contention last week. We kind of said keep an eye on it. It could be happening once that happens. So it did. And so now he will be joining the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I was a little bit surprised to hear that he's going to be joining the team in Boston. I wasn't so sure that Abruzzese was going to be a player that they automatically were going to give an opportunity to at the NHL level. I thought perhaps he'd be someone who they sent down to the Marlies for the rest of the season, get a run of first little taste of pro hockey with the Marlies, and then maybe factor in next year. But it looks like he's going to get an opportunity. He's going to join the team in Tuesday in Boston. And we were talking about this before. It makes sense that he's going to do that in Boston because he's a Harvard guy. So probably went back to Harvard, got his I don't know, clothes, textbooks, or whatever he wants to get. And then, he's all packed up. And then, hey, we'll meet the boys at TD Garden in Boston on Tuesday. You think he plays? Like this, it's a very Sheldon Keefe-esque play for him to put him in the lineup. And based on how poor the fourth line has looked,
I was just about to say.
I could see them just giving Abruzzese a look. And, he's a Boston kid. He'll have friends and family who'll be in the area who could watch him play in Boston. I think that's such a Sheldon Keefe-esque thing to do.
Yeah, I think he always recognizes those situations too, and I also just think with the way the fourth line played, could you get any worse than Nick Abruzzese? Like, I
Yeah.
know we haven't seen the guy play at at the NHL level, but and some are wondering why. It's kind of a thing where you're gonna tell the college guy, look, if you sign now, we'll burn that first year of that contract for you. That's the incentive for these guys to leave college, because if they
Right.
don't leave, they're just free to sign wherever they want once their rights are done. And for the Leafs, they didn't want to lose Nick Abruzzese,
No.
so yeah, we're gonna sign you, we're gonna play you, we're gonna give you a chance to see what you can do. Whether that he's gonna be able to get an extended look and potentially play in the playoffs, that's up to him. At this rate, you let the kid kind of dictate where he goes, because I think there's nothing is totally set in stone when you look at these forward lines. Yeah, the fourth line could definitely use a boost. They were trying to do that all season long. Colin Blackwell was brought in to help with that fourth line and potentially move up in other places. So I'm very much curious to see. I think we'll get more of an idea when the Leafs practice in Boston. I don't know if that's the plans. They're gonna go and fly to Boston on Monday, or if they're gonna wait till to do a morning skate
Right.
on Tuesday. But that I'm very curious to see if my suspicion of them wanting to get him, ready to go and trying to push him to come to the NHL is brought on by the fact that they're gonna have him play right away.
Yeah, I hope that's the case, and we'll see. I mean, he's a bit of a smaller guy, right? Like just taking a look, 5'9", buck 60. Um, he'll probably he played center in college. I would imagine he'd probably start out on the wing. Maybe he'll play center. I don't know, but that's kind of small for a center in the NHL. But I would imagine he looks like he'll get an opportunity at some point. He had 44 points in his rookie season in 1920 before the pandemic hit. 44 points in 31 games. And then this year, he did not play last year at all because Harvard just didn't play. The
Yeah.
whole Ivy League didn't play. But then this year, 33 points in 28 games this season as well for Abruzzese. He's 22 years old. He'll be 23 in June. And it's a 2-year deal. And the first one will be burned this year, which means he'll have all next season as well. So that's Nick Abruzzese. Will he factor in down the stretch? I guess we'll have to wait and find out. He'll get an opportunity. I think he'll get an opportunity. Whether or not he's ready for the challenge, I guess we'll have to wait and see there. As for the other player in the NCAA that everyone kind of has their eyes on in Maple Leafs land, it's Matthew Knies, their second round pick from this past season. He's been a beast for Minnesota in his first year in college hockey. I mean, I don't think a lot of people were expecting much out of him because he's someone who also didn't get to play much hockey last year. But 31 games, he's got 31 points as a freshman, 13 goals, 18 assists, and he's got back-to-back goals here in the regional play-ins, I guess, in the playoffs to put Minnesota into the Final Four, into the Frozen Four. So his college season's still going on. They won 3-0 over Western Michigan today, who was the number one ranked team in the region. So April 7th through 9th, so 2 weeks from now, will be the Frozen Four. It'll be Minnesota, the University of Minnesota versus Minnesota State, and then Michigan versus Denver. So those are the four teams in the Frozen Four, which means so Matthew Knies will not be eligible to sign with the team until After that is done, so 7th, 8th, or 9th, I guess, depending on when his team gets eliminated, or if they end up winning the championship, it could end up being on the 9th or 10th. And I think that's what we would all hope for. But Matthew Knies is a player. I was speaking with Craig Button on Friday, actually, Craig Button of TSN, and he's told me he believes Matthew Knies is ready to play on the second line alongside Tavare and Nylander right out of college. What do you say about that, Dave?
Very interesting, because I was gonna say what Matthew Knies, just seeing his play this season and seeing the clips from the last 2 games, seeing a little bit of like a Michael Bunting with his aggressiveness,
Oh,
his
he's got a lot
foot-checking
more
ability.
size than Michael Bunting, I'll tell you that. 6'3",
Oh, yeah.
210 pounds, buds.
And the scoring ability. I can't remember who mentioned it, but somebody said a little Austin Matthew-esque in terms of his scoring in tight with his release. Like, this kid looks really good. And, like, some people are like, "Oh, but,
Can we find the goal?
it's
Can we
college."
find the Are we allowed to play that goal? The highlight? There may be the highlight of the goal. I don't know what the rules are.
I don't know if we wanna get
Alright, maybe not.
flagged.
Go find it on
Okay,
Twitter.
I'll go find it from Nick, D'Souza, who's, I
It's
believe it
probably
was.
a GIF.
Yeah, I'll find it. But one thing I'll say when I'm finding that, people who are like, but he's only like a college kid. This kid, he also played in the Olympics.
Mhm.
Like Jake Sanderson got signed by, um, he got signed by the Senators. Like these are the guys that a lot of NHL teams were keeping their eye on. So let's see here. I think we'll go with this one here. It's a video, but maybe if I don't play any sound, we won't get in trouble with it. But I don't think we'll get in trouble with it. It's
I
not a
don't
big deal.
know. We got like 5 seconds of video. This is the benefits of being part of our YouTube clan, is you can see some of the videos that we can play here.
All right.
Don't know if you want to play it. I don't know if you got to queue it up here.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Yeah, so here it is, right here, and Matthew Knies, number 80. Was he number 89? I want
I
to
believe
say.
he's 89. So he's coming
Yeah.
to in the slot here.
So yeah, just
Boom.
like Austin Matthews, kind of sitting right out in front of the net, and then leaks out into the slot, gets open himself, finds that open space, finds that open pocket, and just a quick release to get it past the goaltender.
And he's got a guy draped on him the entire, like,
Right,
I'm playing the
and
extended part of
that's
the
where he
clip.
does one of those little, like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get away from you here," and then boom, scores. So that's the type of stuff that could be coming to Toronto pretty soon. Could be coming to the six pretty soon.
Yeah,
And
like,
that would be great news for Toronto.
I think so. Like, I understand people have their reservations on a guy that's considered unproven at the pro rank, but this is also, you just mentioned the stats right there. 6'3", 200, or 6'3" or 6'2", 200.
6'3", 210 pounds,
Like,
and
at 19,
yeah.
he's that big. Imagine when he's grown a little bit more, like if like mature, like I'm not expecting him to be 240 or anything, but like he's gonna probably beef himself up a little bit more now that he'll get the professional treatment. But yeah, like I think, I mean, Craig Button knows.
I mean, are we looking at our own little Josh Anderson?
I think even better than that. I think like that's the probably like the ideal place to look at in terms of the physical stature of it. But I think, yeah, I wouldn't hate that, just because that's the type of player the Leafs kind of need. Tavares needs someone like this. Like, I think Tavares needs a guy that's going to cause a little havoc in the zone. He can set him up for some nice goals. And I think it's what this second line has desperately needed all season. And when we talked about trying to get a guy like JT Miller, maybe the Leafs just feel like they can just go with a younger, cheaper JT Miller-esque type player.
Yeah.
Who knows? This is the biggest unknown, but we won't know until his season's done and whether he's ready to leave college. I can't see why he wouldn't be ready to leave college if the Leafs are pushing for him to come. But that's going to be the biggest. I think that's another thing that we'll have to, I guess, he'll have some time to kind of think about it with his agent before the Frozen
No,
Four
no, no,
starts.
no. Advisor. They don't have
Oh,
agents.
right. Sorry.
It's a family advisor, David. Let's not get this kid
Oh,
in
yeah.
trouble. Come on now.
So it means you and I could be family advisors to these guys.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
I think
More
we're in the wrong
specifically,
business.
Abruzzese, because
Yeah.
for obvious reasons,
Yes.
Mr. Morassutti.
Him is a Signore DiStefano.
There you go. There you go. All right, pal. Let's put a bow on this thing. That's going to do it for us today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show at Locked On Leafs. You can now also follow us on YouTube and subscribe. That's Locked On Leafs on YouTube. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. We're going to be teeing up the game. It's the Maple Leafs, it's the Bruins, and there is playoff positioning on the line. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.